What if I told you that one of the most common health checkups your doctor recommends could actually be pushing you closer to the very diseases you're trying to prevent?
Olivia's life was a symphony of small, beautiful moments. The proud, upright posture of her prize-winning roses in the garden, they sent a sweet reward for her patient hands. The joyful, cascading notes of a Chopin waltz that she'd play for her grandchildren, their small faces rapt with wonder. The crisp snap of a new book opening, the intellectual spark in her eyes as she prepared to lead her weekly book club, a gathering she had founded over 20 years ago. These were the pillars of her identity, built not of grand achievements, but of quiet, consistent joy. The first note of discord was subtle, almost unnoticeable. It came not as a sudden crash, but as a quiet, creeping unease introduced during a routine annual checkup. She felt fine, strong even, but her doctor, a kind man half her age, suggested a baseline bone density scan. "Just to be safe, Olivia," he'd said with a reassuring smile. "It's what we do." And so, wanting to be a good patient, she agreed. The scan itself was nothing, a harmless pass of a machine, but the results a single word on a piece of paper. Osteopenia became the opening tremor of an earthquake she never saw coming. The diagnosis, mild as it was, felt like a judgment. Suddenly, she was no longer just Olivia. She was a woman with thinning bones. The doctor prescribed a bisphosphonate, a powerful drug to strengthen her, but instead of feeling stronger, she began to feel fragile. A dull, persistent ache settled into her jaw. A fiery reflux began to creep up her throat after meals. The simple joy of playing the piano soured. Her fingers, once so nimble, felt stiff, and the jaw pain made it hard to lose herself in the music. The piano fell silent. The side effects began to cloud her mind with anxiety. This constant worry, this new identity as a patient, made her feel distracted, forgetful. She'd walk into her study to find a book for the club, and stand there, completely lost, the title having evaporated from her mind. During one meeting, she lost her train of thought mid-sentence, a flush of embarrassment warming her cheeks. The confident, articulate leader of the discussion was replaced by a woman who felt like a ghost in her own life. The fear began to whisper, "Is my mind going, too?" One quiet evening, the silence of the house pressed in on her. The roses in the garden needed tending, the piano sat mute, and the book for next week's meeting lay unread on the table beside her. She had mentioned her forgetfulness to her doctor, and another recommendation had followed swiftly, a brain MRI, just to rule things out, he'd said. The words echoed in her mind, a terrifying drumbeat of tests and diagnoses, and in that solitary moment, a single, devastating thought crystallized, sharp and cold as ice. Am I disappearing? Is this how it ends? Not with a bang, but with a series of preventative tests that dismantle me, piece by piece, until nothing is left. The fear was no longer about a fall or a fracture. It was about the erasure of her very self. Her gaze landed on that old photograph. It was from a hiking trip in the Rockies, a challenging climb that had left her breathless but exhilarated. She remembered the fierce determination she felt that day, the strength in her legs, the clarity in her mind. A spark of the old Olivia, the Olivia who faced challenges head-on, flickered to life. She looked from the vibrant woman in the photo back to her own reflection in the darkened window pane, and a new thought, a defiant question, began to form. What if being safe wasn't about adding more tests, but about subtracting the fear? What if the answer wasn't in another scan, but in a different kind of wisdom? The next day, she didn't call to schedule the MRI. Instead, she booked an appointment with a geriatric specialist, a doctor who specialized not just in medicine, but in aging itself. The new doctor listened. She listened for nearly an hour. She reviewed the bone scan and agreed it was a normal part of aging, not a disease to be aggressively treated. She explained that the jaw pain and reflux were known side effects of the medication. She suggested pausing the drug and focusing instead on what truly builds strength: vitamin D from the sun, calcium-rich foods, and simple weight-bearing exercises. There was no talk of an MRI. Instead, they discussed sleep, hydration, and managing the anxiety that the medical cascade had created. Slowly, miraculously, Olivia began to find her way back. Without the medication, the jaw pain and reflux vanished within weeks. With renewed confidence, she sat down at the piano, and the music, hesitant at first, returned. She started with simple scales, her fingers reawakening. Her focus came back. The forgetfulness that had plagued her, which was really just a fog of anxiety, began to lift. 2 months later, she stood before her book club, not as a woman fearing she was disappearing, but as their leader, her voice clear and strong, her insights as sharp as ever.
Olivia's story is a powerful reminder of a hidden truth that most of us will never hear from our doctors. That in our quest to stay safe, to prevent illness, we can be led down a path of tests and treatments that cause more harm than good. How did a simple routine scan trigger such a dangerous cascade of fear and complications for her? And the more important question is, how many of us are just one checkup away from that same terrifying journey? We are told to trust the system, to follow the guidelines. But what happens when the guidelines themselves are outdated or misapplied? What happens when a test creates a problem that wasn't there to begin with? Therefore, it is absolutely critical for us to become informed advocates for our own health. Today, we are pulling back the curtain. We're going to uncover the 5 specific health checkups that, for people over 70, can often be more dangerous than beneficial. We'll explore the science that reveals why these tests can lead to unnecessary surgeries, debilitating side effects, and life-altering anxiety. Each one of these insights is a piece of hard-won knowledge, the kind Olivia had to discover for herself. And you absolutely must stay with me until the end, because our final revelation, the #1 checkup to avoid, is the most shocking of all. New research suggests it may be responsible for causing as many as 1 in 20 of all cancer cases in the United States, a risk that puts it on par with drinking alcohol every day. This is the information you need to protect yourself and your quality of life. So if you're ready to arm yourself with knowledge, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and like this video so more people can find this vital information. Just a quick important reminder, all the information shared today is for educational purposes. Everyone's health situation is unique, so please consult your doctor or healthcare provider before making any significant changes to your health regimen. Let's use this knowledge to have more informed discussions with them. Now let's get started. Insight number 5, the bone density scan. Let's begin with the very test that started Olivia's journey downhill, the bone density scan, officially known as a DEXA scan. It sounds so simple and harmless, a quick, painless scan to see how strong your bones are. It's presented as a crucial tool for detecting osteoporosis and preventing fractures. Here's the problem. After the age of 70, bone loss is a natural, universal part of aging. Just like getting wrinkles or grey hair, our bones become less dense. Therefore, when we scan for it, we are almost guaranteed to find it. A result showing osteopenia, or mild bone loss in a 75-year-old, is often like getting a report that says the sky is blue. It's an expected finding, not necessarily a disease that needs aggressive intervention. But this is where the cascade begins. That number on a screen, that diagnosis, often triggers a prescription for powerful medications like bisphosphonates. These drugs are designed to stop bone loss, yet they come with a host of serious potential side effects, including esophageal irritation, severe digestive issues, and even a rare but horrific condition called osteonecrosis of the jaw, where the jawbone literally begins to die. To understand this better, let's use an analogy. Think of your bones after 70 as being like a beautiful old sturdy oak tree. Over 100 years, that tree might lose a few leaves, and some of its outer branches might become thinner. That's natural. A DEXA scan is like an instrument that only measures the thinness of those outer branches and then sounds a major alarm. In response, a doctor might prescribe a harsh chemical treatment to stop any more branches from thinning. But this chemical might poison the tree's root system or make the trunk brittle, causing far more damage than the natural thinning ever would have. A wiser approach would be to ensure the tree gets plenty of sunlight, water, and good soil, the lifestyle factors that give it true foundational strength. The science backs this up. A study in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society followed over 1,200 women over 70. It found that after 5 years, bisphosphonates reduced the absolute fracture risk by a minuscule 0.3%. However, the women on the medication were far more likely to suffer from the debilitating side effects. The risk-to-benefit ratio simply isn't there for many seniors, who aren't actively falling or fracturing bones. The better, safer option is almost always lifestyle. A 2022 study in Osteoporosis International confirmed that strength training, balance exercises, proper nutrition, and correcting vitamin D deficiency can reduce fracture risk by over 20%, a far more impressive and side effect-free result. So, if your doctor suggests a routine DEXA scan and you have no history of fractures, it's worth asking, what will we do with this information? And could focusing on lifestyle be a safer and more effective path to strength? A crucial look at number 4, brain MRI for memory loss. Next on our list is a test born from one of our deepest fears, the fear of losing our minds. When an older person starts misplacing keys or forgetting names, the immediate terror is Alzheimer's or dementia. In this climate of fear, a brain MRI is often ordered to get a look at what's going on. The conflict here is between our desire for a clear answer and what the technology can realistically provide. An MRI is a powerful tool that shows the physical structure of the brain. The uncomfortable truth, however, is that in most cases of mild, age-related memory complaints, it rarely provides a useful answer. Instead, it often finds things that create more fear. Here's the tension. An MRI on anyone over 70 is almost guaranteed to show age-related changes. This could be slight brain shrinkage or small white matter spots. In the vast majority of people, these are completely normal, the brain's equivalent of grey hairs. But once they are seen on a report, they are labeled abnormalities. This can trigger a terrifying cascade of more anxiety, referrals to specialists, and even invasive follow-up tests like spinal taps or biopsies. Let's use an analogy here. Ordering a brain MRI for mild forgetfulness is like taking a high-resolution satellite image of your entire city just to find where you misplaced your car keys. The satellite image will undoubtedly find things that look alarming if you don't have context. Traffic jams, construction sites, old buildings with cracked facades. You could spend months investigating every abnormality on the map, filled with panic, when none of them have anything to do with your keys. A better approach is to simply retrace your steps. In medicine, this is the equivalent of a simple paper-based cognitive screening test. It's cheap, incredibly effective at assessing memory and problem-solving, and it doesn't come with the risk of false alarms and unnecessary panic. A 2021 study published in Neurology Today reviewed over 3,000 MRI scans of patients between 70 and 85 with mild cognitive complaints. A staggering 86% of the scans showed some kind of abnormality, but only 3% of those findings were linked to a condition that could actually be treated. This means that for 97% of those people, the scan did little more than cause emotional distress. Even worse, 12% were sent for invasive procedures based on these vague results. Unless there are clear, severe neurological symptoms like seizures, a sudden and dramatic personality change, or a rapid loss of daily function, an MRI is often not the right first step. It can turn a normal part of aging into a medical crisis. Essential truth number 3, the cardiac stress test. Now we come to one of the most common procedures for seniors complaining of mild fatigue or a bit of chest tightness, the cardiac stress test. This is where you walk on a treadmill while hooked up to monitors, designed to see if your heart is getting enough blood flow under stress. It's meant to spot blocked arteries, but after 70 it often creates more problems than it solves. The core issue is a surprisingly high rate of false positives in older adults. Studies show that for people over 70 without clear heart disease symptoms, the false positive rate can be as high as 40%. This means the test suggests there's a problem when there isn't one. This is where the tension becomes dangerous. A false positive on a stress test is rarely ignored. It triggers a referral for more invasive and riskier procedures. The next step is usually a cardiac catheterization or angiogram, where a tube is inserted into an artery and threaded up to your heart. This procedure involves contrast dyes that can be harmful to aging kidneys and carries risks of bleeding and other complications. If a mild narrowing is found, which can be common and harmless in older adults, it often leads to the placement of a stent. Think of it this way. Putting an asymptomatic 75-year-old through a stress test is like taking a reliable 20-year-old car that runs perfectly well and deciding to test it by driving it at 100 miles per hour up a steep mountain. The engine might make a strange noise or overheat simply because it's being pushed beyond any reasonable limit. A mechanic, hearing that noise, might then insist on taking the entire engine apart, a costly and risky procedure that could damage the car, only to find that there was nothing fundamentally wrong with it in the first place. A far smarter approach would have been a simple, routine check of the oil and fluid levels while the car is at rest, the equivalent of a resting EKG. A landmark 2017 study in JAMA Cardiology found that more than half of all stents placed after stress test referrals were in patients who had no real improvement in survival or quality of life afterward. What they did get were higher rates of kidney injury from the dyes, bleeding complications, and longer hospital stays. If you are not experiencing classic cardiac symptoms, like chest pain, pressure, or significant shortness of breath during activity, a stress test may be a door to a world of unnecessary procedures. A safer first step could be a resting EKG or a coronary calcium scan, which uses low radiation to see if dangerous plaque is actually building up. Eye-opening secret number 2, the colonoscopy. This one may be a shock because for decades we've heard that screening colonoscopies are a life-saving must, and for younger people, they absolutely can be. But the risk-to-benefit calculation changes dramatically as we age. Routine screening colonoscopies are not always a wise choice after 70, and the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force recommends stopping them altogether at age 75 for most people. The reason is that the risks of the procedure itself begin to outweigh the potential benefits. The preparation is the first hurdle. The harsh laxatives required can cause severe dehydration, electrolyte imbalances, and kidney problems in older adults. Then there's the sedation, which carries increased risks for brain function and can lead to confusion or delirium. Finally, the procedure itself, while generally safe, has a higher risk of complications like bleeding or bowel perforation in older, thinner-walled colons. Let's create an analogy for this. For a person who has had regular clean colonoscopies throughout their life, ordering another one at age 78 is like sending a full-scale demolition and renovation crew to inspect a well-built house that has passed every structural inspection for 50 years. The inspection process itself, knocking down walls, tearing up floors, carries a significant risk of damaging the house's foundation, and the chance of finding a tiny new crack that is actually dangerous is minuscule. A much safer and more sensible approach would be a simple, non-invasive external inspection, like the FIT test, a stool-based test you can do at home. It has no prep, no sedation, and is still highly effective at catching signs of trouble. The numbers are stark. A 2019 study in JAMA Internal Medicine looked at over 1.3 million Medicare patients. It found that for every 1,000 colonoscopies performed on patients over 75, only about 2 lives were saved from colon cancer. In that same group, however, over 20 people experienced a serious complication from the procedure itself. That is a 10-to-1 ratio of harm to benefit. Furthermore, many polyps found in older adults are small, and so slow-growing that they would never cause a problem in the person's lifetime. Removing them can cause more harm than simply leaving them alone. This is a critical conversation to have with your doctor, especially if they are pushing for just one more screening, when you have no symptoms and a history of clear tests. The number 1 most dangerous checkup, the annual full-body CT scan. And now we have arrived at our final and most crucial revelation. The single most overused and potentially harmful checkup for seniors, the full-body CT scan. These are often marketed in private executive health packages as the ultimate preventative tool, a way to catch cancer early before you even have symptoms. Here is the terrifying, counterintuitive truth. There is zero evidence that shotgun-style full-body CT scans in people without symptoms save lives. But there is significant mounting evidence that they cause profound harm. The first and most direct harm is radiation. A single full-body CT scan delivers a massive dose of ionizing radiation, equivalent to roughly 500 chest X-rays. Your body's ability to repair radiation-induced DNA damage decreases with age. According to a 2023 modeling study published in JAMA Internal Medicine, the explosion in CT scan usage in the United States may now be responsible for up to 5% of all cancers. That puts these scans in the same cancer-causing category as daily alcohol consumption. Let that sink in. A test marketed for cancer prevention could be the very thing that causes it. The second harm is the one we've seen throughout this discussion, the Cascade. A full-body scan in an 80-year-old will almost certainly find dozens of abnormalities, harmless nodules in the lungs, tiny cysts on the kidneys, benign calcifications that are simply the artifacts of a long life. But in today's medical legal climate, a radiologist cannot ignore them. Every single finding triggers a red flag, leading to more scans, PT scans, needle biopsies and surgeries, all for things that were never a threat. The best analogy for this comes right from the original script, because it's perfect. Using a full-body CT scan for screening is like searching for a single weed in a massive, beautiful garden by dropping a nuclear bomb on it. You might destroy the weed, but you'll obliterate the entire garden and poison the soil in the process. A skilled gardener finds a problem area and then investigates it carefully by hand. In medicine, this is targeted imaging. If you have specific, unexplained symptoms, like coughing up blood or a lump you can feel, then a targeted CT scan of that area makes perfect sense. But scanning the entire body without a target is a recipe for disaster. The American College of Radiology is unequivocal on this. Full-body CT scans should never be used for general screening in asymptomatic adults. The potential for harm is immense, and the benefit is unproven. And there you have it, our ultimate revelation. A test sold as the pinnacle of prevention is, for many, a gateway to overdiagnosis, anxiety, and even cancer. It's the ultimate example of how more is not always better in medicine. So, we've covered a lot of ground today, from our first insight on bone density scans, building up through the crucial truths about brain MRIs and cardiac stress tests, to our eye-opening secret about colonoscopies, all the way to our game-changing revelation on full-body CT scans. Each one is a stepping stone to taking back control, to choosing wisdom over worry. Real prevention isn't found in a scanner. It's found in our daily choices, staying active, eating well, sleeping deeply, and challenging the notion that every test is a helpful one. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these insights, perhaps it was the truth about bone scans, or maybe our eye-opening secret on colonoscopies, or even our ultimate game-changer on CT scans, resonated with you the most? Have you ever felt pushed into a test you weren't sure you needed? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your story could help someone else in this community. If you found this journey through these health discoveries valuable, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps others find us. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more powerful strategies tailored for our incredible community. Until next time, stay healthy, stay curious, and keep thriving.